Hey everyone, and thanks for finding Bebop Banter, the internet's premier anime podcast. My name is Wes.
I'm Demetrius.
And I'm Saeed.
And join us as we talk about anime, manga, video games, and pretty much everything in between.
And no matter what the episode's content, we promise that you'll have a good time hanging out with us.
Without further ado, here we go.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Bebop Banter, the internet's premier anime podcast. My name is Wes, and I'm joined by my co-host Demetrius.
Broom, 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 broom.
And Saeed.
Chainsaw, 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 chainsaw.
Everybody, dear listeners, we had for this week an over hour-long podcast planned, ready to drop, recorded, almost finished being edited, everything at the time of the recording this. Do not worry, it's the one that we were hinting at last week. But then something happened. Something came out that we all had talked about, but didn't really remember until right when it dropped. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. If you're longtime listeners of the podcast, not even really long time, we started talking about it, beginning of this year, guys?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, beginning of 2021. You will know that we are all huge fans. We all marathon the manga. We're all huge fans of a series called Chainsaw Man. And it just so happens that the first, I wouldn't even call it trailer, the first PV, promotional video of Chainsaw Man, the anime adaptation by Mappa, it just dropped. So we're putting our plans on hold for now. Next week, do not worry, it's 4th of July weekend for the US. There will still be an episode up. And it's a beefy one, but we have to get this out right now. We are too hyped. We were all talking about it in side chats and group chats and stuff. We're like, we have to record this right now. So without further ado, this episode we're gonna kind of be talking about, give a little bit about Mappa, talk about Chainsaw Man, the series as a whole, reiterate our thoughts. You can actually go back. We have a mangaka feature series we do every once in a while. We did a whole episode on Chainsaw Man, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
You guys can go back. You can listen to that to hear our overall thoughts. But we all mentioned that because they announced anime adaptation at the time, we all mentioned that the anime adaptation and the elements around it could make or break the series. So we're just going to talk about Mappa, Chainsaw Man as a whole, our thoughts on the trailer. We're all just too hyped. So let's just get started and let's get the boring stuff out of the way. Mappa is the studio doing Chainsaw Man.
And big name as of late. Their name is starting to carry weight.
Yup. For people that don't really pay attention to studios, Mappa, here's some names you might have heard. And we've talked about some of these series too. In 2020, we're just going to go back to 2020. There are a lot of other series. Or no, we'll even go back to 2019 because there are a couple big series in 2019, such as Kakegurui and before that as well in 2017. But more recently, again, 2020, we have stuff like Dorohedoro we've talked about. God of High School was pretty hyped up. Jujutsu Kaisen, Anime of the Year for 2020, was done by them. Attack on Titan, the final season, they took that over from, who was it, Wit?
Studio Wit.
Yeah, Studio Wit. Zombieland Saga and Zombieland Saga Revenge. They got Saeed, you were talking about this one called Tact Op Destiny that's coming out in October that looks good. They've very quickly gone from more, I don't want to say smaller series because they've done like stuff before like Yuri on Ice, Days, Ushio and Tora, Terror in Resonance. I didn't know they did Hajime no Ippo Rising in 2013.
They did both of those?
I did not know any of this.
I didn't know they did that either.
But see, that's the thing. Like, with Mappa, they did these series, but... And maybe it's unfair of us to say as a whole in the anime community, but at least for us, their name wasn't really carrying a lot of weight.
No, for sure. They weren't the big three of studios. Like, for a while, it was Madhouse,
Bones,
stuff like that.
Trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Trigger.
Studio Pierrot in the heyday, or in the height of their powers with all the Shonen Jump series.
True.
But Mappa has been, they've been around, but they really took off, I would say, once they started putting out, kind of around 2020, the bigger series, taking over Attack on Titan, taking over Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, they've amassed these really, really large shonen series, and the huge money-making shonen series, and Chainsaw Man is no exception. Why are we bringing up Mappa when talking about Chainsaw Man? Like I said earlier, the animation and the music is very important to how this series will be received, and we can't mention.
It looks
Mappa
so good.
It looks so good. But real quick, we can't mention Mappa without, and I want to get all the negatives and the boring stuff out of the way first, because we were all collectively concerned that this would not look really good.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
Because they've been working on so much, and because of all of the stuff coming out about Attack on Titan, where there were reports of crunch.
Yeah, animators
people were
being just
leaving.
pinch time, always got to work.
Yeah, so
the short timeline they had, all that.
And then they kept, with all those reports coming out, they kept announcing like series after series after series that they were working on. They have some like water polo series coming out. They dropped Yasuke on Netflix very quickly after it was announced, I think. So we were all kind of concerned that it would not look good. But Demetrius, you said it, so break it down, bro. What does this trailer look like?
First of all, this trailer looks like a movie. If you were giving this to somebody that didn't know it was going to be an animated series or an anime, they would think it's a movie. Period. By how good it looks.
Yo, that mouse. The mouse in the beginning, or the rat, or whatever it was.
Yo, Subway pizza rat from New York.
Yeah, he had frames, dog.
It's true. He looked good. His fur was fresh. Looked like he had just taken a nice little trash shower. Looked good.
Trash, bro.
And
then, oh my god, dog. Why do I think that's so? For people, by the way, for our listeners out there, new listeners, thank you for listening. We like to just kind of pal around, make it feel like you're in situations with us, and we are recording this straight up when the trailer drops. We just watched it, so we'll continue.
So I mean, the trailer looks good. I think the other exciting thing about the animation is it looks like they haven't censored a lot, so there's still plenty of like blood. I'm sure there's gonna be gore as well too.
That was a huge concern that we had. Like, I think we talked about it in a couple podcasts, like how would they creatively censor this series with how much violence is in it? Like, how many rays of light or like black bars across the screen would they be putting out there?
Right. I was afraid it was gonna get like I remember JoJo Part 3 was heavily censored.
Oh man, dude.
Oh, big time.
He's smoking a cigarette, and they just make the entire bottom half of his face black, so you can't see anything.
I was gonna say, if they were gonna censor Chainsaw Man, there might be scenes of just complete blackness, because that thing gets pretty violent.
Oh, he gets brutal.
Which still blows my mind. Go back and listen to our Shonen episode. It's kind of older, but we explain what makes a series part of a demographic. It blows my mind that Chainsaw Man is a shonen series, like literally in Shonen Jump. I have a Japanese Shonen Jump like physical magazine sitting on my shelf, and I flip to the end and Chainsaw Man is in it. Like, aimed at younger boys. It still blows my mind that this isn't like seinen.
Give kudos to Jump and their editors for letting the mangaka express himself the way he wanted to.
Yeah. Big
especially
time.
with a certain chapter that you cannot find on the Shonen Jump app.
Right.
Because of Saeed, what did you call them? Some zampers, bro.
Oh yeah, some yonks. Some zampers.
It had a very unexpected chapter intro. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if you read, Chainsaw Man is available in its entirety. Slight spoiler alert, the part that is getting animated and the part of the manga that is out is just part 1 of the story. We're still waiting on part 2 news. But it's available in its entirety on the Shonen Jump app to legally read. You can start buying volumes out. But if you're reading on the Shonen Jump app and you get confused in what, the 60s or 70s,
I think it's the
maybe, of
60s.
chapters? In the 60s, if you're like, what happened? What's going on here? You might have to look up a chapter, online somewhere. To
At
figure
least
out
that's
what's
what we
going
had
on.
to do.
Yeah. But
Confusing times.
yeah, it looks incredible. Saeed, I know you had some thoughts on the music too. You want to hit that up?
Yes, sir. The music is composed by Kensuke Ushio, who did the music for Devilman Crybaby, which is fantastic. He's a really good composer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he also did the music for A Silent Voice, that movie.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
really? Oh,
So
okay.
He has a very good track record when it comes to composing music for anime-related projects. And if you guys seen Devilman Crybaby, to the listeners, the music was fantastic in Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm pleased. And I was saying before we started recording that the formula for a good for the normal audience to grab onto an anime is having good animation and good music. And this has, at least from the trailer we've seen, good animation, composer we've seen, potentially really good music, and Chainsaw Man has the luxury of having a fantastic story as well, and a unique story. So it has like the trifecta going on for it. So potentially this can be something very, very special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we were talking about it before too. I think Demetrius, you brought it up. This thing has been formulated for success, more so than a lot of series that I feel like have come out recently. Because if you think about it, Chainsaw Man is still a relatively recent series.
Yeah, big time.
And from manga volume trailers being put on TVs in major Japanese cities, like, so that as you're crossing the Scramble crossing, you see like a Chainsaw Man trailer on the TV. And from the Viz and Shonen Jump channels pushing out like behind the scenes on the music they've put out for these trailers, or voice readings of chapters, or just the hype surrounding it, not from the community but from the company pushing it out. It's received a lot more kind of support than maybe what we're used to seeing, which is a good thing because we all love Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, there's a lot of like support and praise so far from just the manga that people are naturally gravitating towards it. So this series is, like you mentioned, Wes, like it's formulated to be a banger so far. Way more than I expected when I started to look into it.
I have never seen a series, an anime adaptation, get more hype than this. Like from a community aspect.
We're feeding into it too. We're feeding into it right now.
Yep, that's true.
Sure. But it's so hyped up. People have been itching for it. I wasn't a weekly reader of Chainsaw Man, but from people I follow on Twitter, my Twitter friends who were reading Chainsaw Man week to week, they were on a high like I've never seen before from a weekly reading standpoint. Like, once that craze hits anime levels and then it expands the audience, I don't know what's going to happen, especially on social media.
We're about to get
Every
Demon
week
Slayer.
Chainsaw Man's about a trend. I was going to say, Jujutsu Kaisen was the recent big pop anime that came out, and that was done by Mappa as well. And I think Chainsaw Man can and will surpass Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm wondering if Chainsaw Man is going to be able to surpass Demon Slayer. I think it has the potential to.
That's gonna be.
It might.
I think
It's gonna be
does.
the challenge. Because is it fair to say that Chainsaw Man, even though it's a shonen, it's a little more mature than Demon Slayer is?
Oh, it is. It is more mature.
Oh, for sure.
The
It's a
thing,
lot more
so
mature.
yeah, like the subject matter of Demon Slayer, even though it's like, I don't know, it has demons and fights and blood and gore and all that stuff. The difference between the two is that Chainsaw Man is like very in your face, but it has a lot of subtleties to it as well. So like your older audience will be able to see things and be like, wow, that's really toxic, versus like your younger viewer that might be like, oh yeah, they're actually like good to go, you know?
I feel you. There's Chainsaw Man is definitely a lot more bloody, gory, and sexualized, and the main character does not have the moral compass, perhaps, that Tanjiro has in Demon Slayer.
Right. But I like him better.
That's true. I think.
So he's like, I relate. I relate.
I think most boys that are now men or whoever can like somewhat relate to Denji, to some degree.
It's almost more like having to look for people that have read the manga. You might understand. We're really trying not to spoil the motivations of every character because you learn it pretty early on with Denji, but we're still not going to spoil it. It's almost forces you to look yourself in the face for some of these decisions or like thoughts you had when you were teenagers, and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a teenage boy." Like, okay,
yeah, just a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Like, I guess, but we've been talking about the hype from the community, but Saeed, you were actually talking before this about the hype it was getting in the industry, and not like from the company that's pushing it, not from Jump or anything, but from mangaka outside of the circle of influence that Chainsaw Man has.
Right. So, Naoki Urasawa, national treasure mangaka from Japan who did things like Monster, 20th Century Boys, Pluto, he praised Chainsaw Man a lot. And also, in just the anime world, the animator, I guess, circles, they've been chopping at the bit so they can like work on Chainsaw Man. So this can be like a really special thing. Wes was alluding to how what's it call it? One Punch Man was similar, where a bunch of top tier animators wanted to work on it, and they did for the season 1, and we all know how that was animated. It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what? Because what season 1 was season 1 of One Punch Man. So yeah, before the podcast I was talking about it was an interesting situation where it was done by Madhouse, right?
Yeah, Madhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Madhouse did season 1 of One Punch Man. I don't remember really these names. You can look it up because this is kind of just off the cuff our reactions right now after watching the trailer. But they had some like top tier director come in, and literally all of these freelance animators were like, we want to work with this guy on this project. They all came together. So we had a really well kind of respected studio, plus a well respected director or producer, whatever he was, plus some of the top freelance animators all coming into Madhouse to work on this. Season 2, I don't know why Madhouse gave up One Punch Man. I think the dude was busy with other stuff, and then the animators didn't want to come back, so they gave it to whoever else did season 2 of One Punch Man. But yeah, it could be special with this perfect storm of, like Saeed said, people chomping at the bit to work on Chainsaw Man because of the reputation the manga had, plus a studio that seems to be on the up and up. So yeah, I'm very excited after seeing this trailer. I'm very excited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't explain. If the amount of hype I have is ridiculous. If you've seen my Twitter today, I just literally spammed chainsaw.
He has been. If you've seen the Bebop Banter Twitter, which you can follow us on Twitter at Bebop Banter, you'll also see that certain somebody who runs the Twitter has been spamming Chainsaw Man.
Yes.
So
I don't know why I'm so hyped for this. The hype is there. We talked about it before. For an anime like this, maybe ever.
We talked about it before, though. It's because the manga has so much momentum to it, I think is what we said.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a fast-paced, simple to follow, but also like deep at the same time in certain regards series. And it's so unlike anything that's been out recently, with how kind of unabashedly, as Dimitri said, in your face it is with a lot of stuff.
Yep. It's one of those because we mentioned it in the actual mangaka feature episode, but it's easily one of those that like you get on a roller coaster expecting fun. There's some dives and dips and ups and downs and all that stuff, but there are points where you're like, wow, this is getting insane. And if the anime is able to capitalize on that momentum, we're gonna have a Twitter storm every week when it releases.
Oh, 100%.
It'll be trending every single week.
Because
I think it's still the fan base as it is now without the anime pop is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
especially on
because there's a
social
big
media.
moment. There's a big moment almost every chapter that happens.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and it's Chainsaw Man has a formula that just like in comparison to a typical Shonen Jump format, you expect it to go one way, and it almost always does something to subvert that, or it goes a different direction, and
Yeah,
it's
it
very
subverts
difficult to predict.
expectations very well.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it too, again on that subverting expectations, kind of culminating everything we've been talking about. The cast is just so differently written than your typical shonen cast. I mean, there's definitely the shonen influence in a lot of characters, but it's so different compared to the typical like Jujutsu Kaisen you might watch, or Naruto you might watch, or Bleach you might watch, where you expect, especially for long time anime watchers like us, where I mean, you've heard me rag on Black Clover a lot, but where you expect a certain thing to happen because that's just kind of the formula that has been followed since we've started getting into anime and manga. And again, the subversion of expectations, like it doesn't happen. So it's it's so
thing-
just
The thing Chainsaw Man does is like it has those tropes of like shonen, specifically Shonen Jump type tropes, as like one layer of it, but then the mangaka has like this creative freedom where he twists it and makes it his own, and it changes it up completely, and it's fresh and new because of that.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
there's
mixes-
plenty of
he
twists, all
mixes-
right.
Yeah, he mixes his creativity and his ideas with what Shonen Jump traditionally has done, and it blends really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It 100% does. It's yeah, it's just hard to describe without spoiling it. Like, please, this is one of those things, by the way. I've talked about it before, and it might be the same for you guys, and I'm pretty sure it is. We've talked about it. There are very few manga that I read to completion that when I'm done, quote unquote done, because it's just part one, but when I'm done with it, there are very few that I go and I watch the anime for.
Yeah, that's true.
Because a lot of the times the anime either
Same.
just won't stack up to it, or I just don't care about seeing the story again.
Right.
Like Jujutsu Kaisen is one of them. I'm fully caught up on the manga, but I watched the anime. My Hero, like Dragon Ball Super, I can't say anything about it, but like I've gone back and read the manga for Dragon Ball, OG Dragon Ball, and then watched the anime to completion for OG Dragon Ball. Like there aren't many situations where I'll read a manga and then see an anime adaptation and be like, I have to have it, but Chainsaw Man is one of those.
Right. There's certain scenes I am dying to see animated.
Oh my gosh, bro. Let's just say, get ready for some darkness for the people that are out
Oh
there.
gosh.
Oh yes.
Ooh,
Darkness in
man.
the Snow as well. Very.
Oh
very
yes,
cool
yes,
stuff.
yes. A little bit for the people that have been out there and read it. So please go out and read this series if you're even interested in it, just to get a taste of it. Because we've talked a lot about the anime, but just pushing the manga a little bit here, the art in the manga is so raw,
Yeah.
but not in
It's
a bad
so
way.
good.
Like it's packed with so much emotion and so much momentum and so much energy in every single drawing. It's nuts. It's
The
just
paneling, and especially during the action sequences, it's like a storyboard type of thing in some parts. It's done. It's so fluid. It's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason
It's
I think
refreshing.
people who read the manga are excited about the anime, because that manga is kind of set up like it's supposed to be like moving, like flowing, so people
Yeah.
want to see it happen. Because I know a lot of there's been a lot of fan made animations of certain scenes in Chainsaw Man.
dude, the community.
Yeah,
is
the community.
insane.
We haven't talked about that. The community's been
Yup.
animating bits and pieces since they heard, probably before they even said that it was getting an anime.
There are so many good like fan made Chainsaw Man openings and endings and scenes.
Right.
Oh, like-
Speaking of that, this isn't fan made, but they've also released, like we talked about before, the promotional stuff with the volumes in the manga. I just want to reiterate those trailers for specifically Volume 9's Chainsaw Man release.
oh,
It was
so good.
insane, man.
That's literally
It was so good.
that is the energy. If you look at the trailer and you hear the music, like BPM and the beats, that is the momentum of Chainsaw Man.
For
Yeah.
sure.
100% agree. It's and we're jumping between different stuff, but this is the other reason why like this trailer blew me away, is there has been so much fan hype and so many good things created within the community that in my mind there was no way it was living up to that, right?
Yeah.
Like there was zero chance, especially like one of my favorites is look up Chainsaw Man opening Devil in Your Heart. That was like one of my favorite pieces of fan stuff. I was like, this is incredible. And then the trailer comes out and I'm like, I see it. I understand. Like this, it is everything I've wanted. Saeed, you said like it exceeded your expectations in the way that the trailer.
I wasn't expecting it because I saw Jujutsu Kaisen's animation, which is pretty good, but it wasn't like ufotable Demon Slayer level.
Right.
This, from what I've seen in the trailer, is better animated than Jujutsu Kaisen.
By far.
Oh yeah,
and
big time.
Potentially, it can rival something like ufotable from what I've seen in the trailer.
So this question's to Demetrius because Saeed, I don't think you've seen the Demon Slayer movie yet.
No.
But for people that haven't seen it yet, I haven't personally checked, but I was watching some anime with a buddy of the podcast, Brett, and he said the Demon Slayer movie is on Funimation now.
Oh, really?
So I'll have to double check. If you have a Funimation account, guys, double check. I'm not guaranteeing it, but it's something I've heard. I trust this guy. I trust my boy Brett. So if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. But what came to mind for me, Demetrius, and I'm interested if you can kind of see this and your thoughts on this, is when I saw that opening scene of the trailer and scenes throughout, it reminded me of that opening scene of the Demon Slayer movie.
Oh, like the realism?
Yeah. Just like maybe not necessarily because it was the Chainsaw Man trailer was stylized in the Chainsaw Man way, but just how fluid it felt, how crisp some of the animation felt, it really reminded me of that.
Yeah, so when I first saw it, I kind of agree. Like it's definitely stylized, but I think at the very least it's doing very well to compare to a movie quality in an anime style. If it can it can sustain this type of animation, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and that's the next thing, and probably the last big topic we have to wrap up this review thing is we mentioned earlier we were kind of worried about how it would look, and this trailer definitely got our hopes up and was more than anything we ever expected. But it's almost, and talking with people outside of this podcast group who've seen the trailer too, it's almost too good, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping what Saeed you were talking about, I'm hoping what you were talking about with the animators coming means that they're going to sustain this. But some of these scenes, especially like the CG quality of Denji in Chainsaw Man form, like, did they just show us some really good stuff, or is this the entire series? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right.
I wonder,
like, the scene with when Denji was Chainsaw Man, it was CG, but it was like that good ufotable
that
type
good
CG.
Good.
It was
That
insane.
ufotable CG.
Yo, and
Which I do not mind. I'm not. It's not like I'm against CG. That's the way it's gonna go. But once it gets to this consistent level of producing high quality CG, why not? Just do it.
And here's another throwback to when I was talking about the Demon Slayer movie. Demetrius, I think you'd agree that CG Denji Chainsaw Man looked better than the CG stuff from Demon Slayer, the movie.
Yeah, so
you know
I'm
the
gonna
CG stuff I'm talking about.
I'm gonna be 100% real that I watched the trailer maybe 2 or 3 times. I didn't notice he was CG.
Right, it's very subtle.
So that's a very good sign if they're able to execute at that level.
Yeah, and I mean it might only be little parts of him CG, but I swear it looks like there's a little bit of that CG, but done in a tasteful way.
I wonder if this, and I feel like most shows have it, right? If we're gonna have that level of animation throughout, or if it's just gonna have like that Toei animation like upgrade quality.
Yeah. See,
where they
like
jump into the Sakuga stuff, you know.
Which you can listen to our podcast episode on Sakuga too if you don't know what that is. But yeah, it's just if this can stick to this consistent level of detail and quality that the trailer showed, this is gonna be an all-timer, right?
Oh yeah, we're looking at a modern classic in the making if it can sustain.
And I
even
hate
if the quality
hyping up
drops a
modern
little
shows.
bit from the trailer, I still think it's gonna pop off.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
As long as the base animation is a little better than what we got in Jujutsu Kaisen, in that range, I guess, a little up above Jujutsu Kaisen and what we've seen in this trailer, if it consistently stays in that realm, or peaks up to what we've seen in this trailer, it'll be good. I'll be happy.
yeah, and we don't hand out these like labels of this series is gonna be a classic often, if at all. And I know it's just us feeding into the hype cycle of the Chainsaw Man trailer. But please,
listeners,
believe us.
The manga is already, I'm gonna call it now, it's already a classic. Like 5-10 years from now, we'll look back at Chainsaw Man Part 1 at least for sure and say that was a classic.
I agree. Because it's different different content and different style, but I get a similar feeling as Attack on Titan early on. It took the world over, right? We've talked about it before.
Oh, yeah.
Attack on Titan is responsible for... It is probably single-handedly responsible for reigniting the anime craze in the West.
Right.
Yeah.
Bringing
Demon
it
Slayer
to the
was
normal
one right
audience.
after that.
Yep. And I get a similar vibe from Chainsaw Man. Like, we go to conventions. Spoiler alert for next week. We've seen the occasional Chainsaw Man cosplay here or there, but I imagine it's really gonna be up there.
Oh man, I cannot wait.
If Jujutsu
for these
Kaisen,
cosplays.
if Jujutsu Kaisen can take Anime of the Year for 2020, Chainsaw Man is going to take that year.
Yeah.
The next year.
Oh no, it's not
hands down.
You know,
It's not
you know
even
what's
a
crazy
question.
to think about? Last year Mappa got Anime of the Year with Jujutsu Kaisen, right, for 2020.
yeah.
2021.
They could get Attack on Titan.
It's probably
they could
Attack
get
on
Attack
Titan.
on Titan for Anime of the Year. 2022, they might get it again, 3 years in a row. Because we talked about this before. We think this Chainsaw Man is going to be released fall, spring or fall. Was it summer?
Yeah, no,
fall?
Summer, fall, probably.
I was just gonna say, that's a good segue for when we actually think this is gonna be released, because there was no release date given.
Right.
So
Which is
2022, I think for sure.
I want them to take as long as they want for it to look good.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care if
Perfect
I have to wait
this.
a year or a year and a half.
Mhm.
And I was also
agree.
saying to Wes before we started, I want them, if it was my wish, like, to have them animate the entire first part of whatchamacallit, Chainsaw Man. Like, just finish it off. Do it all in one go.
I think
it's-
it could
and
be
it's-
easy.
24,
and it's
36
possible.
episodes.
It's
Yeah.
totally possible because
20
it's only 97 chapters.
Yeah, make it 24 to 32, because some of those dialogue-heavy chapters, that it's wild to think that these dialogue-heavy chapters are still very, very good in the series. Like, the down chapters are very good. So they can all be condensed into one episode for some of
Right.
these, where it's like 3 weeks straight of a little bit of action with some backstory. That could easily, stylistically, be put into one episode.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the beginning arcs, I feel like you can knock them out in two,
real
maybe
quick.
3 episodes.
Easily
Yeah.
one episode, actually.
Yeah, that too.
The power one especially, I think, could be 1 to 2 episodes max.
Right.
Early on. So, yeah, I definitely 2022. I think we all agree on that.
At the
Summer to
latest,
fall.
2023.
Yeah, which I would, like Saeed said, this is also a rare occasion where if it continued to get delayed, like, I'd be worried, but I want them to take as much time as possible.
Yeah.
So like a winter 2023, like January 2023. It pissed me off that it's so long, like so far away, but hey.
Yeah.
Well, just
If
smarter
it-
from not releasing a release date.
Yeah.
They didn't do a
'Cause
gaming
big
industry-
time smart.
The gaming industry does, yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
other
'Cause-
thing you have to be concerned about is, especially after the year of 2020, like, you don't know what world events might affect production.
Yeah.
True.
And let's look into the future real quick of Mappa, because 2021 right now they have Zombieland Saga going on, Remain and Ida Ten Deities No Only Peace comes out in July, Tact Op Destiny comes out in October, Attack on Titan the final season is slated for 2022 right now. Chainsaw Man doesn't have a release date. The Yuri on Ice movie doesn't have a release date. Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, the movie, comes out this year, December 24th, 2021. And then Yasuke. So really, if we're looking at future projects for Mappa, while what's the word I'm trying to talk about? Where the narrative around Mappa was that they have a lot of stuff going on, right? And that Chainsaw Man could be affected. Really, the only works that they have coming up are Chainsaw Man. The 2021 series are probably all almost done, if not done, and just being in post production. So Chainsaw Man, Attack on Titan, final season part 2, the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, Alice to Teresu, whatever that movie, the Yuri on Ice movie, and that's it. So they only have a few projects going on, and they're movies right now that are at least slated. So
and of course a whole bunch of stuff we don't know about.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff we don't know about too. But as far as we know, they could be putting a lot of resource towards Chainsaw Man, which
is smart.
Come on now,
which is extremely smart.
I think they're banking on Chainsaw Man being their banger, even more so than Jujutsu Kaisen. That's what it looks like just from the preview.
And I think that's a safe bet, considering that, I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man are technically still ongoing, but in terms of momentum, and I haven't read Jujutsu Kaisen, but in terms of momentum, Chainsaw Man is kind of the way to go.
Yeah, and I mean, prayers up to the author of Jujutsu Kaisen going on a hiatus because of some sort of illness.
Yeah, hope he's doing okay and heals nicely.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a good point, because their big Golden Goose series right now is Jujutsu Kaisen and Attack on Titan, and Attack on Titan's about to end. And they only really got one, I mean, technically 2, because they split Attack on Titan into part 1 and part 2, but really just season 4 of Attack on Titan is what they got. The rest goes to Wit. So they're about to lose Attack on Titan, which is a huge moneymaker, at least actively being released. I don't know how the royalties and the payment rights go to them after like Blu-ray releases and merch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Jujutsu Kaisen will be alone until Chainsaw Man as far as their big ongoing series. So that's a good point. But yeah, that was a lot. Chainsaw. That's our immediate, like you guys are hearing our immediate reactions to the Chainsaw Man trailer. We are all hyped. We wanted to record it as soon as possible and release it as soon as possible to make sure that, like, over time, the amount of hype that we had, this is our first reaction. It wasn't lost for you listeners out there. So we would love for you to follow us on all of our socials, all of our YouTube channel, everything. Just look up Bebop Banter. Comment on Instagram, comment on Twitter, comment on YouTube, wherever, with your thoughts on this trailer. If you're hyped on it, if you've read Chainsaw Man, if you plan to watch Chainsaw Man, if you plan to read Chainsaw Man, whatever about Chainsaw, anything about it.
True.
Hopefully the series is good.
One other little note is, Chainsaw Man is going to be great. Everything about this is hype. And I can't wait for them to release an actual trailer, because this was just a PV. So when they release another trailer, it's going to be another round of hype.
Oh, because when they do for people that just watch anime but don't watch like trailers and that type of stuff, typically what'll happen is a series will get announced, then a PV will come out, just promotional video, and then they'll release a full-blown trailer that might have the opening theme, and then they might release one more trailer that has the ending theme, and then they'll release the series. So, dude, if the next trailer has an opening theme with it, with some actual, like, animation, and then it'll be introducing the voice actors, the cast behind it with their characters. Oh my gosh, dude. We're starting the cycle. We're starting the media cycle of Chainsaw Man right now as an anime, and we're all just so excited to be able to share that with you. Saeed, you got any final thoughts here?
Chainsaw.
Hey, that's a good way to end it. Everybody, thank you for listening. Look forward to next week's episode. It's a long one, but it's also some of the most fun we've had recording an episode in a while. My name is Wes. This was Demetrius and Saeed. Chainsaw. You guys know what to hit on with.
To be continued.
Bebop don't stop.
Peace.